It's time for episode 296 of the 3 Point Podcast and a national championship hangover. Guys, last week I asked if we're dreaming, man. The dream came true, right? It's unbelievable.
Everything about this football season has been a dream. It's like we've said before, good time to have a podcast.
Absolutely. Well, we're presented by the Memorial Healthcare Wellness Center. As you can tell, I probably need to get up there and take care of this nasty cold that is still lingering. Check out memorialhealthcare.org for everything they offer, including discounts for 2024. Also want to thank our other partners, AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Shook & Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. We're going to talk big time about the Michigan game, obviously.
Yeah.
We're recording this on Tuesday morning. And we'll also talk about the Lions, now 12-5 and into the playoffs. But is there anything we need to catch up on beforehand?
I'm just worried about your health, man. Are you doing
I was
okay?
just going to say, maybe it's a health update on everyone. Is everyone doing all right? I mean, I got to be honest. Yeah, Jared, you mentioned Ted. Ted, you even just mentioned it. Anyone listening can tell.
Yeah.
That radio voice that always comes over your airwaves. It doesn't sound the same right now from Ted the sports guy.
Well, I got severe sinus issues. I might have to go to the doctor today or phone in anyway and get some antibiotics because I got a feeling it might be a sinus infection. But off air, Jared, you were saying you had a coworker or two that it's dragged on for 3-4 weeks even.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it's just weird. And I mean, we don't live the healthiest lifestyles, Ted. So
Right.
That's probably a big part of why this has maybe lingered for both of us. I had something like that, probably a month or so ago around Thanksgiving time where it felt like I was sick for like 2 or 3 weeks with that. It's similar to what you have, but I don't know, man. It's a new year. Do you guys have any New Year's resolutions to kind of like get us back on track? I mean, I'm going to the wellness center after this. Shout out to Memorial. I got to get my life back on track, man. It was something like what Ted's was going through. Like I said, a month ago, I felt that way. This is now day number 3 that I've been kind of watching what I'm eating and exercising every day. I already feel so much better. It's like I'm like tying a hand behind my back when I'm like eating junk food every night, and It just feels good. Got to keep it rolling now. 3 days is basically nothing, but we're trying it. What about you guys? Do you guys got any big New Year's resolutions?
Not necessarily resolutions. I've never really been make a resolution. Maybe like mentally I'll be like, all right, I need to get back on track, like you said, with getting into the gym or eat a little cleaner, but not necessarily like an official resolution. Just real quick, talking about the sickness thing, we had pink eye go around. I don't know if you guys have ever had pink eye. Ted, you had kids, so I mean, you probably know about that, but our son got it like 2 weeks ago, so you have to do the drops for like a week. And of course, daughter gets it about a week after he did. So my wife and I are sitting here, we're like, all right, we're probably going to get it. I got it last week. So luckily it's one of those things like with adults, you do the drops and obviously don't touch it. And then you're kind of good. With kids, you just can't control what they're doing, touching everything, sneezing all over, wiping their eyes on everything. So that the pink eye can be kind of nasty, but you take the drops, it goes away. It's all good to go. So hopefully that's the worst of what I get out of all this crap that's going around. But no, I mean, you mentioned the not healthy lifestyle. Ted, you're living the retired life. So you're actually on like a semi-normal schedule, I feel like probably, something that but you definitely know about this working in this industry, whether it's radio or TV or whatever. It's not it's not a healthy lifestyle. You're either working late nights or you're working early mornings or no sleep, or you just get a quick 15 minutes to grab a bite to eat and you have to like shove it in your mouth. Right. And then you're in a control room with a bunch of people, coughing on each other and breathing. And it's just, whenever someone gets sick at the office, it is almost like, all right, here we go. I don't, probably after COVID, it got ramped up, but we have wipes and sanitizer stuff everywhere, and the idea is you're supposed to wipe down the workstations because we share stuff, so it's like, please wipe stuff down, but you can only do so much, I guess, when you're working so close with everyone.
This is a random question. Maybe I'm gonna come across as a weirdo. Matt, like, you seem like a farm guy when you're growing up. Like me personally, I don't ever I'm never sitting like in a place like thinking about the germs. Was it when you had kids that you started being more cognizant of that stuff, or is that not even a thing yet?
I don't know. I don't know if it's I mean, definitely since COVID, everyone has been much more, aware of trying not to sneeze on each other or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, I think, yeah, when you have kids, you start thinking about it more because you don't want to get them sick. You don't want whatever they're bringing home from daycare or school to get you sick. So it's more wash your hands, don't sneeze or cover your mouth or don't pick your nose, just kind of like all these things you got to start telling kids. So maybe that is when it kind of ramps up. But it is funny, when you think back to like when you were a kid, I remember teachers telling us to wash our hands or, cover your mouth when you cough or whatever. But it doesn't seem like I remember it being so like vivid of like clean, wash your hands, wipe stuff down. Like, I don't know, Ted, was that even a thing back when you were, a kid?
No, I mean, it was just after you go to the bathroom, that was about it,
Yeah.
no other extremes at all, and I don't know. I think from you're probably not getting your diseases so much from work, more from kids, what they're exposed to.
Which is everything. Because I mean, I'll drop my son off at daycare, and there will be a couple of those little rugrats running around in the class, and I'll see them like snot draining down, and I'm just like,
thing you ever seen.
Right, I'm just like, all right, well, here we go, because I know that kid's probably wiping his stuff all over something that Wesley's probably going to go play with, and so it's like, here we go.
Yeah,
you hope they always say, don't to the parents, if your kid is sick, please do not bring them in. And you hope most parents are good about that. But like sometimes to an extent, if it's not some like awful, terrible sickness where they can't move, I mean, you got to go to work.
right.
Kind of like, sorry, if he's got a runny nose, I mean, try and keep up on wiping it off. Otherwise, I got to go to work. So, luckily, you have sick days maybe or care days that you can use to stay home with your kids, but you can only do that so much,
Yeah. I mean, Ted would be in school right now if he was 10 years old.
Right.
I mean, that's probably true.
Yeah, especially if I had a basketball game later on,
Yeah, exactly.
No doubt. Well, my one thing, I do want to try to get back in shape. I do want to shed a few pounds and eat a little bit better. I mean, Christmas, the holidays do it every year, man. Just so much good food, And I don't know about you guys, when you have like the main meal, like a ham, and then you're eating ham for 3 or 4 days afterwards.
Right.
So that's at least cleared out of the way. Now I can get back to normal and hopefully shed this darn cold, man. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's no fun being sick, whether it's even if it's something minor or if it's something where you're kind of feeling like crap. It's just not fun. I saw someone actually, this would have been relevant. I think it was on Instagram. It was one of those like doctors or something that posts all these like inspirational things, and it was something like, it was something about like taking your health for granted. Like you don't think about your health as much until you're not feeling well. You kind of just go through the motions, or you don't think about shedding those pounds or trying to stay healthy until you're not feeling well and you're sick, and then it's like, man, I got to get rid of this. So sometimes it's like, maybe if you stay ahead of it, maybe you don't have to get sick. Sometimes it just happens and you can't control it, but it's definitely not a fun time of year.
Yeah.
Well, it is a fun time of year for the Michigan Wolverines, and we'll get right into that.
Clearly,
I couldn't wait to get into this one. So let's take a short pause and then talk national championship right after this. All right, guys. Michigan 34, Washington 13. Save my voice. Break it down.
Real quick, I have a genuine question about this. I'm not gonna tell you guys how I feel. Maybe you can guess, but it was awesome last night.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first title I've ever experienced. Matt, I guess you would have seen the 04 Pistons, so you saw that.
Yeah.
This was my first experience with a title. My whole life, I've been the Joker quote. I'm a dog chasing cars. I don't know what to do if I got one. And I don't know. When we won it, it was like the most surreal thing. Like it almost felt like I wasn't watching Michigan like win a national championship.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I loved every second of it. I didn't sleep more than maybe 2 hours last night, but I don't know. I don't know what I was like expecting. I just thought I thought it would feel like your like first kiss, that like rush you get like for the whole night, like you're on the top of the moon. And I think it was more so like maybe like your 10th kiss, still great. I loved every second of it, man. But I don't know. My expectations were so high of how that would actually felt. And it's been, 25 years of my life waiting for it that there's just no way I was ever going to meet my expectations. But with all that being said, it was still awesome. But did you guys have any sense of that feeling?
I think it was different for me with Michigan because there's been so many letdowns, and Harbaugh came in with so much hype, and we thought, especially because he had some success, like right when he came in, we thought it was just going to be like he's going to be rattling off title after title after title, and it's everyone knows the journey, I guess, that's been Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. So to me, it was just like an overwhelming sense of relief of like. It kind of and disbelief, kind of like watching the confetti fall and the celebration. It was almost like is this seriously happening? Because we've seen Michigan somehow blow it. That's why when you texted in our text thread, when it looked like Michigan was about to run away with that thing, literally run away with that thing with Donovan
Not
Edwards
so
and
fast,
Corum.
Jared.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking that. I think everyone probably was, but it was like I said, trouble with the snap and all these other games have just ruined me. It's like, no, I can't believe this is happening until I see Jim Harbaugh hoisting that trophy up. But I remember the 97 championship. I was, like 12, 13 years old. So
can I say something about that?
Yeah.
It was, they split it, correct?
Right.
It was not.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever even have like a wow, we're national champions moment from that you even remember?
Yeah.
Like, what was there one like that?
Oh, I definitely, for me, I don't know about you, Ted, because it had been a while for Michigan. So you remember the Bo days. I wasn't really around for the Bo days, but no, there was, because you're a kid, 12, 13.
Oh yeah.
I love Michigan even more than I do now. Charles Woodson and all those guys. It was definitely exciting. And even back then, the whole split championship thing, I think people make it a bigger deal than what it really was. They won a national championship. That's just how it was.
Yeah, I think this was a little bit more legit since they didn't have to split it. But I was thinking back to my time, just specifically on Michigan sports. Okay, we had the Fab Five. They fell short. But this reminded me more of the '89 championship with Glenn Rice in basketball.
Yeah.
I remember because that's a late game. They beat Seton Hall. I remember turning it over to WJR to listen to all the post-game stuff. This was, ESPN wasn't doing all the stuff that they do nowadays. That's what I got a flashback to '89 when they won the basketball national championship. So that's where I was at. And I think also, fellas, the way they won last night, they had their ups and downs, but the game was closed out after Sanders still picked off that pass and Corum blasted into the end zone. It was over. It wasn't like the Alabama game, overtime.
Right.
I don't know about you guys, and we were laughing about our text thread where I basically was like, they're about to TCU this team, referencing last year's national title. I was never nervous during that game last night. I really wasn't. During the Bama game, I never thought we were going to win until the final buzzer sounded. This one, I was confident the whole way. It was one of those where it's like you see it and you're like, man, why did I not bet my whole life savings on Michigan?
Right.
Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. My dad was like having a panic attack. Like I was like almost rooting for it to be like a good game. Like Washington put some points on the board. Like, let's make this a legendary game. I was never worried. Maybe I'm the psychopath. I don't know.
No, I remember thinking that going into the second half when, it was basically a one-score game. Michigan's offense had kind of sputtered in the second half there. And, it was definitely seeing how the first quarter went, or they sputtered in the second quarter. I mean, seeing how the first quarter went and then that second quarter, it was a little frustrating and like, man, are they going to figure something out? But I kind of had the same feeling in the second half. Like, basically all I thought was don't let one of those big, huge 80-yard bombs happen with those receivers and Penix. And they were going to be fine. And really, it's almost like Michigan knew, Michigan knew going in that the stats were out there. All the analysts, everyone said it. You pressure Penix, you hit him, you get him off schedule, and he's not the same quarterback. He's still, he actually didn't have I was going to say he still had a pretty good game. He actually didn't have a very good game last night. I mean, the numbers right here, I was going to share. Michigan pressured Penix on 17 of his dropbacks. He was 3 of 15 for 14 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks on those. So basically, Michigan obviously knew. Last week with Alabama and Jalen Milroe, it was the same thing. Don't let him don't let him get outside the pocket. Don't let him hit those deep balls. And it was the same thing with Penix. Pressure him, hit him.
Yeah.
Don't let him just chill in the pocket, because you saw when he did have time, bink, bink. He's as accurate a passer as we've seen in college football. You hit him, he can't really scramble anymore with some of the injuries he's had.
Yeah, he was beat up.
And our DBs, man, Will Johnson had just a hell of a game, and they all
did.
I was gonna start listing off names. You mentioned Sanders still just, he's just a Michigan legend. He has to be. The whole story, coming in as a receiver, switching over to DB, honestly, played himself into an NFL cornerback. He's gonna get drafted. I don't know where, but he's gonna get himself drafted. That is an insane story. So I think overall, Jesse Minter, a few years ago, Harbaugh, we all remember Don Brown. And we loved him, the energy, and Don Brown, all that kind of stuff. But Harbaugh made the decision. He was like, "Hey, we've got to run an NFL style defense. We're hiring Mike McDonald, who is now probably one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL." And then after he left for the NFL, got Jesse Minter, who's also an NFL guy, and they run an NFL defense. And you could see it gave Penix problems, because he was like off all night. So, to answer your question, I kind of had the same feeling in the second half. I didn't really ever feel nervous. It was just kind of like almost waiting for that 180-yard bomb to like give Washington hope.
Yeah, where you break a sweat.
Yeah, I was probably more with your dad there, Jared. I was a little bit nervous, especially starting off the second half. When they got the interception, I definitely felt better. And then when they had the holding penalty, calling back that big long pass,
right,
I started settling in at that point. They took care of business. Speaking of that defense, man, incredible, just incredible. Mm-hmm. And you talk about how they run the pro style. It's exactly, they're rotating big men in there, left and right. It's awesome.
Yeah,
there's no weak link. Will Johnson, he's probably gonna be a top 5 pick after next year when he goes to the draft. Again, my favorite compliment of that guy. He goes the whole game. He had the one interception. Other than that, you never hear his name. He's just out there. Whoever he's guarding, they're not throwing to. Yep. Sanders still had a big pick to seal it. Those two D linemen, man, Graham and Kenneth Grant. Grant had maybe the sweetest bull rush I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
He just
knocked over 71.
Those linemen, I felt bad for them. And they're a good offensive line. It's like we did that to Alabama's offensive line. We did that to everybody. And you just felt bad for him. Like I saw number 73. I'm blanking on his name. He was having a rough day with false starts and just getting kind of mauled by McGregor and a few different plays. And I saw he didn't give a sack all year. And he still didn't give up a sack against Michigan. That's the crazy thing. They only gave up one sack. Is that right? Yeah. But it felt like Penix was under duress all game. And they were rushing 4. It's like what we would love to see from the Lions on Sunday. You got home with 4. We won't see that probably, but they got home with 4, and then they just were able to drop everybody else into coverage. It was a masterclass. Thank God John Harbaugh decided to, which he's like the coolest Harbaugh. I don't know what it is about him. About him, he's awesome. I love John Harbaugh, maybe even more than Jim. Him passing over Minter and McDonald to us, when we were in dire straits, when Harbaugh was on whatever it was, like a $1 million a year contract, a joke of a contract. And it's funny how it seemed like that was all we needed to get us over the hump. It's like we were banging our head against the wall with Don Brown and these like engage 8 blitzes. He called himself Dr. Blitz. And we finally get in Minter, and it's like the whole college football landscape's opened up. It's like, wow, this is the best defense I've ever seen. The best part, Matt, you talk about feeling relieved. You know what's kind of sad? I'm just going to say it because it's a genuine reaction. My first thought, and as I'm scrolling through Twitter, seeing all the naysayers, mostly Michigan State fans, this win will be vacated. Congrats to all the CMU, Grand Valley, Saginaw Valley alums today. Like, you guys did great. Like, this is a win that makes it so none of those state jabs can hurt you anymore. It's like the ultimate trump card. We were waiting for it. We thought we were going to get it with Beeline in those basketball two runs they had. We thought we were going to get a title then that could always trump Michigan State and all the naysayers, Ohio State, everything. They did it. In the college football playoff realm, not we were splitting titles, they won the national title. Yep. And now all the naysayers who claim it was cheating or whatever, they just have to eat it, man. And it feels great.
Yeah, and it's even if, you talk about Reggie Bush's Heisman got taken away, but everyone knows he won the Heisman. If you talk to anyone who talks about the Heisman Trophy, he won that, even if he doesn't physically have the trophy. I honestly don't think much more is going to come of all this stuff. I feel like if it was going to, it would have already. it may still, we don't know what they're going to look into this offseason, but I highly doubt if anything does, it's going to go as far as vacating the season or anything. Maybe another suspension for Harbaugh, maybe like a loss of scholarships for Michigan if it goes that far. I'd be really surprised if it went as far as taking this national championship away, partly because Harbaugh served the suspension in season. So you could almost say like he did do his time. He served the 3-game suspension and the team kept winning.
Right.
The team beat Penn State,
Ultimate
Maryland,
backfire.
Ohio State, dominated Iowa in the Big Ten championship, dominated Alabama, Washington. And so, no, I don't think we know how it goes, though. Opposing fan bases, they're always going to be salty about this.
Well, what was sweet is that, like, you think about like my whole life, at the lunch tables, man. There's nothing. I wish I could hit a time machine and transport me back to those high school lunch tables, man, and just give me like the floor for 30 minutes to rip all those guys that I had to hear from. We like bested them at every step. They talk about that stupid Rose Bowl win, which was basically meaningless versus Stanford, whenever that was, 2013, 14. I remember going to my buddy's like frat house, and on the wall they have that like 4th and inches stop for Stanford.
Right.
Like, we went to the Rose Bowl, we beat Alabama in the Rose Bowl. That's like a bigger Rose Bowl win. Went to the national championship, won the national championship. We had this all-star defense, 10 times better than no-fly zone defense. Like every step of the way, I loved it, man. It's like I felt like a kid watching that game.
Isn't this funny, Ted, to hear Jared's perspective on this? Because he grew up in the Michigan State era where Michigan State was dominating Michigan. Because everything you're describing, I was the other way. Because I grew up, like through the 90s, through early 2000s when Michigan was dominating. So I was wearing my Michigan stuff proud to the lunch table. But I understand you were not during the Rich Rod and Brady Hoke years. So I get that. But like I said, the opposing fan bases are always going to hate. Yeah, that's just how it is. I mean, you hear me hate on Izzo, even though Izzo's one of the best coaches ever. You know what I mean? Like it's just always going to happen. But
do you guys think there is an asterisk on this? What do you like?
No way.
And because part of it too is, and I really don't think it's because we're fans. I think we would be honest if we thought they were legitimately cheating and it was some big old thing. Harbaugh knew all that we'd be the first ones to say, this isn't a good look. Harbaugh's got to go, whatever. If it went that far, but multiple people have even come out and said like whatever the Stallions dude was doing wasn't giving them that big of a competitive advantage. Since he's been gone, they've continued to roll. If anything, they've gotten better since all this stuff happened. All these guys came back to win this thing. Harbaugh did his time, the assistants. I mean, everything about it is just like the whole scandal, the people that still try to bring it up. It's almost like, I don't know. They're just being salty about it is how I see it. Again, I understand it as an opposing fan. You're going to be salty, but no way.
Believe me, I've been there a lot. Like it's funny seeing all the Twitter arguments. Like I remember those days, man. Trouble with the snap. The Devin Gardner game where we had like minus 50 yards. Like I remember battling those wars. You never win them. Man, I lost my train of thought. I'm just so happy.
While you regain that, I was going to ask Ted. We brought up the 97 and, just the whole generations and we're talking about this team or whatever. Where would you you didn't have time to prepare for this. Maybe you've thought about it. Would you put this team up there as prisoner of the moment? I'm sure the best Michigan team ever.
Oh, you have
better than the 97 team. Maybe some of those in the 80s.
Absolutely. I mean, this team has impressed me from the get-go, especially you starting with that Penn State game and just watching that run all the way to win the Natty. I mean, they've had some great teams in their history, but I don't think it's just a prisoner of the moment thing. I think this team was legit in every aspect, starting with probably the greatest coach of all time at Michigan, Jim Harbaugh. 3 straight national championships or 3 straight playoff performances, a natty, and everything else that's gone along with it. And he did exactly what he said he was going to do. His mission was to turn this program around, make them an elite, top of the line college program, and he's done it.
Yep. It's hard not. It's funny. The text thread I always mention on this podcast with my buddies from back home, that question came up. Is Jim Harbaugh the best coach in Michigan history? Obviously, the only one that'd be second would be Bo Schembechler. Lloyd Carr is there, but it's hard not to say it's Jim Harbaugh with how he's turned this around. 3 straight Big Ten titles.
Yeah, how could you not?
Overcoming Ohio State when Ohio State was peak Ohio State. And then now obviously winning the national championship. It's hard not to say he's the best Michigan coach ever, which honestly, I tweeted it out. Again, maybe we talk about emotional tweets or text, in the moment. You can make an argument if he does end up leaving for the NFL, maybe we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but you can make an argument, build him a statue for what he did as a player and then coming back to Michigan and rebuilding the program and winning a national championship. You can make an argument. He hasn't been there as long as Bo Schembechler was, but you can make an argument, build him a statue, name the practice field after him, the Jim Harbaugh practice field, something like that, because hopefully he doesn't leave. If he does, I'd be fine with it. Again, we'll probably talk about that a little more in a minute, but he's put this program in a place that if he does go, whoever takes over is just keep the train rolling. Just keep the train rolling. You know what I mean? So no, I would put it up there because I saw some of the stats. They're one of 4 teams ever to go undefeated, and they never allowed more than 25 points in a game. Remember, Penn State's offense was scoring a ton of points, and they shut them down. Ohio State obviously is Ohio State. I know McCord isn't C.J. Stroud, but it's still Ohio State. Shut them down. Alabama was scoring a ton of points. Shut them down. Michael Penix was a Heisman Trophy candidate. Probably you said, Ted, probably should have won the Heisman.
I thought so, yeah.
NFL receivers all over the place. Joe Moore Award, offensive line. And they shut them down last night in the national title game. I mean, you remember the 97 defense with Charles Woodson and all those guys. That was a lights out defense. But, man, this defense, and I'm a J.J. McCarthy fan. He's going to catch hate because he doesn't put up Michael Penix type numbers. He's 27-1 as a starter. 2 straight Big Ten championships because he wasn't the starter, obviously, for the first one. And a national championship. I don't know how you can hate on this guy. He does everything he's asked to do. It's frustrating at times because I wish they asked him to do more. Exactly. But he does what the coaching staff asks him to do. When he's asked to run, he does, and he picks up first downs. When he needs to make big throws, like he did on that drive in the fourth quarter, zipped one to Colston Loveland, threw a nice little pass to Roman Wilson, sealed the game basically. Did the same thing against Alabama last week in the Rose Bowl. And we've seen when he does need to air it out against Ohio State last year and a couple other games, he can. I honestly think it's just the coaching staff doesn't ask him to do much. I think they know. Lean on our defense. We've said this in previous podcasts. The term game manager gets thrown around. I don't understand why that's a bad thing. They probably don't lose the game. JJ, don't lose the game. Like against TCU last year, we don't need to bring that up, but those pick sixes maybe lost them that game. Don't lose the game. Make the throws when we ask you to, run when we ask you to, and hand the ball to these running backs. That's not a bad thing. He's 27-1 as a starter. I don't know how you hate on the kid.
Yeah, you can't he won a national title. It's like he's I can't say another bad word really about him. He's definitely I don't know. Yeah, like you said, and I think he's coming back next year. We'll do the same thing next year. Man. Where there'll be games like in that third quarter, man. I don't even know if he attempted a pass more than 5 yards. It feels like sometimes, whether it's by design or just inadvertently, they treat him like he's like me out there throwing the ball. It's JJ McCarthy, man. You're comping him to Andrew Luck. He's getting first round grades in the NFL draft. Let him sling it. But I think it is what you can't argue with the final result when they won. That was what was weird about this year. It's every game was kind of an ugly win. But they kept winning. It's I'll take that every day of the week. People are bitching about how it's a boring game last night. I loved every second of it, man.
It wasn't boring to me.
Right.
And JJ, people were it's so kind of lame, but cliche to say, he's a winner. But there is something to be said about that. Other than one game his entire career, he's made enough plays to win. That's impressive as a quarterback. We talk about it all the time. There's so many different ways you can lose the game. He didn't do that. He won a back-breaking pick. In that third quarter, Michigan could have lost that game easily. Yep. And he never made that mistake. And he made a couple big plays that won him the game. Him using his legs on that third down, backed up in their own end zone, basically. And then that throw to Loveland, like you said. He did just enough, man. If he's back next year, I'm almost positive. He's got the chance to put together one of the greatest college careers I've ever seen. You beat Ohio State 3 times. He's going for the 4-peat, 3 Big Ten titles. He's been to the college football playoff every single year, going for probably 4 next year. I mean, if he's back, if Harbaugh's back, they're the favorites to win the national title, right? I would think so.
I don't know how you argue against that. I mean, obviously like
Right.
Georgia, but I mean, with the 12 going to the 12-team playoff, Michigan has an insane schedule next year, but going to the 12-team playoff, you think at minimum they'd be back in the playoff, and then don't know what happens. But is it time to get into that? Are we done talking about the game specifically, or you guys? Do we think? I don't know. How late did you guys stay up? Did you watch all the post game stuff? The Scott Van Pelt
I watched
Sports
most of
Center?
it. I recorded the rest of it, but I watched most of it.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw like they Sports Center went to the press conference with Harbaugh, and he joined Scott Van Pelt on Sports Center, which is Scott Van Pelt. I mean, this isn't company man speak. He's the best in the business. The SVP is so good at hosting Sports Center or whatever show he has to host. But the interviews that he does are just so good. It's just natural. It's like just two guys talking shop. And when I saw that Harbaugh was joining SVP, I was like, man, I don't know how this is going to go. Harbaugh's such a
Well, I was like, they were teasing it, and I'm like, I'm not sure he's actually going to go on. Like until he's actually on, I'm like, I don't believe he's actually going to go on the show. But he did.
No, I was kind of thinking the same thing. I was like, is this confirmed? Do they know he's going to come out there and put that headset on? But it was a pretty good interview. I mean, it was a Harbaugh interview, but they, at the press conference and at with SVP, they asked about the future, and obviously he just gave the, I want to just enjoy this or whatever. But
exactly.
Again, texting with my buddies, we all kind of came to a consensus or said the same thing. Previous years, I would have been pretty upset if he left, not like mad at him, not something like that, but pretty like, damn, we had Harbaugh and could never like get it done. Honestly, if he decided to go to the Raiders, go to the Chargers this year, it would be a thank you, coach. You rebuilt the program. You won a national title. Go after a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? It would be one of those things like, man, I think you said it. One of you guys said it. He did what he came here to do.
Right.
He came to Michigan when they were in the dumps, rebuilt the program. He's put himself above. Michigan's above Ohio State right now. Won a national title. I mean, it would be the time for him to step away if he's going to. My gut, I don't know what you guys think. My gut is that he's still going to come back. Again, in that SVP interview,
right,
I don't know if you guys I don't know if it was a slip or if he just kind of said, I don't know if you've seen this, Ted, but
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. So if you recorded it, go back and watch. This isn't like spoiler alert, but
no, fine.
Yeah, the SVP asked him about like, what are you doing? Like what's your next few days? Basically trying to ask him about the NFL, but didn't come out and ask him about the NFL. And Harbaugh basically said, like, usually we go, of course, Harbaugh said something goofy, said we go into spring ball. Usually we start spring ball on Valentine's Day because we love football. But he said this year we're going to push spring ball back to March and give guys a couple more weeks off. So it's kind of like, so wait, you're already planning your spring ball practice? Like, wow, yeah. And SVP even said that he said something like, oh, so you're thinking about spring in Ann Arbor? And I think everyone was like, whoa, wait, what did you just say? So yeah, I don't know. It might mean nothing, but
until I saw that, I was 100% he's gone, and for sure Minter's gone with him. And I mean, I think the rumor everybody's been saying is Sharon Moore probably is the heir apparent to take over, which I think we're all in favor of. I mean, he proved himself this year. And I mean, we can talk all day about his offensive coordinating. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's pretty damn hard to call perfect, offensive game plan. But I think I hate to say it. I'm all the way back in. I think he's coming back. Something about that. Something about the more and more I think about it, like, why would you leave? I feel like we're on like the precipice of like being, a Bama. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Especially if we would have stayed in the college football playoff format and no conference realignment, where it was just us heading to Ohio State every year. If we beat them, we're basically in the playoff. Like I feel like we could do this for the next 3 years.
Right.
And so it's like, I know the Charger job is enticing, with Justin Herbert and all that, but I mean, he's got this thing humming. Just keep filling it with gas. Whereas if you go to the NFL, you got to rebuild the whole car from scratch. He might, and especially if the sanctions, maybe there's more coming from the NCAA. Right. I think if there was for sure nothing coming from the NCAA, he could just pick it up and start coaching right where he left off. I think he's back. I don't know. Yeah. I'm getting my hopes up. Maybe I'm an idiot because this whole offseason, this whole season, I thought he's been gone. But something about that comment, And
Yeah.
the way he was acting after the game last night, it's like, I think he's back. I think he's just a weirdo who doesn't want to give, I saw Andy Staples basically asked him the question, and Jim was like, can I just freaking enjoy this for one night without you guys
Right.
do this? And Andy Staples is going back and forth with people. Like, people are basically saying, like, that's not your job to ask him that. In that situation, he's like, well, maybe it is my job. I think he's back. I think he is. I really do.
Well, I hope you guys are right, but I believe it the other way.
Yeah.
I really am. I mean, if you're ever going to leave for the NFL
Yeah.
at his age, what is he, 60? He could get another 10-year contract with the big bucks. Just look at football. The thing and the way the college landscape has changed now, with all you have to be on top of the nil money and everything else that's going with college football, especially with the Big Ten realignment. I hope you're right. I want him to be a lifer at Michigan. I've said it before, but I just think this is the year that he's going to get multiple opportunities and he's going to pick the one that he wants. And I think I agree with you, Matt. How can you hold it against the guy? What he did, what he needed to do, got the national championship. As much as we want to see him in Ann Arbor, I just think this is the time,
Yeah. Yeah, and Booger McFarland this morning, I was watching Get Up. He made a good point, and I guess maybe to support Jared and I's prediction or hope, I guess, of Harbaugh coming back. You have to wonder, because I feel like when it was either with the Broncos or the Vikings, one of the jobs that he interviewed for, it came out that one of the things that made him either not get the offer or accept the offer was, Harbaugh has a very big ego. Everyone knows that. And he wanted to go somewhere where he had full control. Basically what Bill Belichick has with the Patriots, where he's the GM and the coach. Apparently that's kind of what Harbaugh has been looking for. He wants to go somewhere where he can build he wants to draft who he wants to draft. He wants to sign who he wants to sign, hire the coaches that he wants. And one of the places, the Vikings or the Broncos, weren't going to give him that. So that's what Booger said this morning. Why, if another NFL team isn't going to give him that full control, why would Harbaugh at this point in his career, like you said, Ted, 60, I mean, he's at the top of the profession. Why would he want to go to the NFL and be told what to do?
Yeah.
Whereas at Michigan, to an extent, he could basically do what he wants. You know what I mean? He puts full trust in his assistant coaches and everything, of course, but that would maybe be one thing. It does genuinely. I mean, I think he just loves football in general. He's a football guy, but it seems like he genuinely enjoys the kids, being around 18, 20-year-old kids, recruiting. And he's a football guy. He's been in the NFL, everything, but I got to think it's like not as fun in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's the NFL. NFL is king. We all know that, but it just seems like it wouldn't be as fun, unless you're winning. If you're John Harbaugh in the Ravens right now, it's probably a blast. Right. But if you go through a 2-3 year run where you miss the playoffs or something, I mean, that does not sound fun. Whereas now you get fired.
Right.
But what he's done at Michigan now, he's set. Even if they did slip, say JJ leaves and, they kind of have a 2-year run where they go 9-3, something like that, 8-4, he's fine. Just beat Michigan State, win a couple big games. And you know what I mean? Like he has no like threat of getting fired at this point.
Right.
Unless like just something absolutely crazy happens. But the NFL, like you guys just said, in the NFL, that could happen. And then that could be a stain on his, resume, kind of in a similar way, like a John Beilein leaving to go to the NBA, and that did not work out at all. But
you're selling me. I like.
Well, it's just like what's the what is he searching for?
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I guess that it's probably right because he lost that to his brother. He was so close. I mean, he made the NFC Championship 3 times on top of that too. Dude, you got this thing rolling. Like, I get recruiting sucks and, this new world, NIL, transfer portal. I don't know. They seem to have figured it out, especially the portal. It's like, this identity where we're just going to have 2 stud tight ends. We're going to have a stud offensive line. We're going to develop our quarterbacks. Just keep it rolling. The defense, whoever plug and play with Minter, they're going to be damn good. It's like, why do you want to go to the NFL and basically you have to win now, especially with the Chargers job? It's like, what? Playoffs less next year? And then all of a sudden, if you don't make the playoffs, now you're on the hot seat. Why? Just,
Right.
just keep it rolling, man. I get recruiting sucks, but God, it feels good when you're out here bludgeoning Michigan State, James Franklin, Ryan Day. I mean, that probably doesn't get old. I wouldn't think.
Right.
I will
Yeah.
say you guys are bringing up good points that I'm sure he has to think about that stuff for sure. And I've said it before, and I think we all agree. He's a damn good coach. He could coach in the NFL. He's proven that. but really, when you look at Jim Harbaugh to his core, he's a college football coach.
I think so.
Well, like you said, the players love him. I mean, in that Scott Van Pelt interview, he got stopped by like 2 different players. I think Samaj Morgan was one of them. Like, they're like, I love you, coach. Like they love him.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, everything he told them, we're going to be national champions, buy in. Donovan Edwards, I mean, we didn't even talk about him.
Right.
He's going to be fun to watch next year. I don't know if they might still maybe try to get another running back in there in that room with him and Mullins. Or is Mullins graduated?
Mullins? No, he's only a sophomore. So
yeah. So, I mean, they're going to be great in the backfield again next year. Edwards, I mean, he's just buying time all year. We've been talking about how great he's been kind of just accepting his role, letting Corum kind of be the main guy. And I mean, wow, when he breaks through that first level, it's like he's gone every time. It's like both times on both those runs, like as soon as he broke through the defensive line, you're like, oh, he's gone. They're not catching him. It was awesome to see that. So it's like they got a really good culture rolling. Like it's like a battleship. You can slowly turn it, man. I don't see a world where they're gonna like really drop off. I think it's 10 wins and better. Right. Unless this new schedule really is that tough. I think it's 10 wins or better for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Should be. I mean, it like you said, as long as they keep things rolling, and he's building it to a point like where Saban had Alabama, where Urban Meyer had Ohio State. You still have to recruit for sure, especially with all that stuff that you guys have both mentioned, NIL, transfer portal. But he almost has it to a point where if he calls and says you want to come to Michigan, guys will come. Like to an extent. You still have to recruit and everything, and NIL is a big thing. But, guys are seeing this. You got the jump man on your hat right there, Jared. People, these kids love that stuff. First jump man school to win a national championship, by the way. I did see that Desmond Howard mentioned that. I did see that. So all this stuff is a big deal.
Speaking of jump man, did you see that press box area where they were partying?
Man.
Jeter
who was up there? It was like Derek Jeter, Michael Jordan, Stephen A. Smith. I saw was up there. Travis Scott. I don't know. Ted, you might not know who Travis Scott is.
I know who he is. I know who he is.
I mean, I barely know who he is. I know Jared probably does.
He knows him from the McDonald's, the Cactus Jack McDonald's meal, probably.
Right.
Doesn't he have a famous girlfriend?
One of the Jenners, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's how I know him.
Yeah.
It's like
so I'm just, it's all back to I'm with you, Jared. Why would he leave?
Yeah,
but that Super Bowl might be enough to say I gotta go after a Super Bowl. But
I just think the NFL is always going to be there. I get this, like, I don't know. I guess the Chargers job is enticing. I mean, having zero fan base doesn't sound that fun to me. But
right.
It's like, what are you waiting for, man? I mean, your NFL shelf life as a head coach, like we saw, he was a damn good coach for the 49ers. They still fired him after 4 or 5 years.
What's the money? Is there a money difference? Is there a money difference? Money?
Doesn't.
Well, I mean, we'll see with this new contract. I think you make more as college coaches make more.
Really?
Right?
And what was that reported? The offer on the table was like $150 million from Michigan.
Wow.
So, but with the clause of like you're not going to flirt with the NFL anymore. So
it is like why I don't get why he keeps doing. If he doesn't leave this cycle, if we do this again next year, I might be out on Jim Harbaugh. I don't care how many. Why do we keep like if he does resign and it is like that way, like why does he keep doing that? This whole thing would be annoying if he just ends up resigning. It's like, why do we do this?
I feel like this would be the time for him to sign a 10-year deal.
Yeah.
The rest of the time in his tenure, he couldn't beat Ohio State. So it was hard to justify that 10-year huge deal. Even after 2020, when they went 2-4, it was like, geez, we're about to fire this guy. Now, if he's going to stay, it would make sense. Give him the 10-year, $150 million. You're the Tom Izzo of Michigan football. You're stay here forever. We're going to name a building after you. We're going to name a field that, you know what I mean? Before, it was kind of hard to justify that, even though we knew he was a good coach. But it was like, man, you can't beat Ohio State. Man, you haven't even won a Big Ten. And, of course, you hadn't won a national championship. Now he's done all that. Give him whatever he wants. But he might want to get back to the NFL because he's seeing his brother, number 1 seed in the AFC, potentially winning another Super Bowl. And that might, brother rivalry, that might be enough to be like, He did make a funny comment in the presser. I don't know if you saw this, Ted. I'm sure you did, Jared. He said something like, "Finally, I can sit at the big kids table at the family dinner."
He said like the same joke like 3 or 4 different times,
did.
like in different interviews, like same wording, everything. Like he's an odd guy. I love him. He knows how to freaking coach a football team. But in those post game, man, every question, like I mean, the very first thing that I think it was Holly Rowe asked him is like, how does it feel? He says something along the lines of, there's thousands of confetti falling. There's a million stories and all this confetti. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm loving it, but I don't know what you're talking about.
But then it's kind of like you see when they talk to his mom and dad, you kind of see why, because they're characters too. So it's kind of like, oh, what's it? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
And that's why I like John Harbaugh. And what an awesome moment it was mid game. He just walks right up and hugs Jim. Wasn't that just a sweet little visual? It's like, wow, that's awesome. Is John
which is kind of wild. Like, sorry, Jared, to cut you off, because I wanted to ask that. Like, they're obviously super close. There was that feature that Marty Smith did during College Game Day about their bond. Super, super, super close. He really walked up to him in the middle of the national championship and was just like, hey, what's up, brother? How's it going?
Hey, I made it.
Right. Yeah. But then, you didn't see Jim. He wasn't annoyed. He gave him a hug and they talked for a minute. It's just kind of like, I'd almost be, what if Jim walked up to you in the middle of the Super Bowl? Would you be like, hey, man, get the hell out of here. I'm coaching a game. It's just, I thought that was funny.
Who is the older brother?
Really cool too.
Is it?
John is.
He's older
by a year.
Dude, he looks like he's like 40 years old. Like he looks great, and that's what I was like joking about.
Because he didn't play in he didn't play in the NFL for 15 years.
Yeah, that's true. Jim is like literally his dad, just younger, and then John seems like this cool, like hip, like guy. It's just funny seeing the two guys like interact. A couple things I want to throw out, just like great moments that we might be glossed over. We're talking about Harbaugh's parents. His dad, who's got it better than us, the chant where he was literally screaming so loud, like the mic like cut out. Like what a great moment that was. I mean, we got to give Corum his credit. I mean, that picture of him, I mean, this is more so just his career as a whole. That picture of him against Penn State, stalwart with the blood all over his nose. I mean, how do you not love Corum, man? We love that kid. We remember when he first burst onto the scene with Hassan Haskins, and he was kind of in the Donovan Edwards role. It's like, this guy's a stud, man. When he gets the keys, it's going to be on, and it was. I mean, just love how he runs. It's going to be sad seeing Donovan Edwards take over the leash next year. It's going to be awesome because he's going to have a lot of big runs. But I love that punishing style and how Blake Corum was just like what I like to call a muscle hamster. Like I loved watching him run. He was awesome.
Yeah, like you said, mission accomplished too. That was pretty cool at the post game. Definitely, I think the best running back in Michigan history, arguably, right?
Hard to argue. I mean, has the touchdowns record. I mean, he carried the load for basically 3 years.
Right.
Came back. He could have went to the NFL last year. He came back to do this. Has beaten, all the check marks. Beat Ohio State. Beat Michigan State. Won Big Ten. Won a Natty. Not much else you can do. He was a Heisman candidate last year until he got hurt. I mean,
and was the explanation point in the two biggest wins in Michigan history, really, Bama and then Washington. They had the two touchdowns that iced it. This is off the wall, but if we're kind of moving on, this is something that pissed me off all night. The NCAA football game won.
Oh yeah, did they ever announce that?
What?
Did they ever announce that? They were supposed to.
It's not coming. It's never coming. These MFers, man. I think their headquarters are in Turbin, EA Sports. Dude, I could burn that place down. We've been 10 years without an NCAA football game. That's crazy. 10 years without an NCAA football game. My favorite game of all time. Everybody's favorite game of all time. The best football game. And they've been teasing this damn game. Like, I have a Facebook memory from like 2017 where they teased like that the game was coming back. That was 6 years ago. They haven't done anything. The only thing I've heard is this stupid plan where they're going to pay players $500, just like flat rate. You're getting $500 to be in the game. That's not going to work. The guys like Caleb Williams, they're probably not going to agree to that shit. So the game's going to be, even if it does somehow come out, the game's going to suck. I'm just so sick of everybody hyping it up. I knew this trailer was never going to drop. You never heard anything from EA, just like the rumor mill on Twitter saying that there's going to be this commercial. I'm just sick of that game. I'm done talking about it until there's literally a physical copy in my hands. It's never coming.
That's what I've said over and over. Until I see it on the shelves or, like you said, in my hand and I'm playing, I'm not going to believe it's coming back. You asked Ted, what are they waiting for? The big hang up why it went away first was it was before NIL. Guys
Oh,
were saying, hey, EA's making all this money, like
right.
Denard Robinson was on the cover and he probably didn't get a dime from that. He might have got a little bit.
I think he did because they would do seniors who graduated.
Right. He was in the NFL, so he could make a little money. But all the other players in the game weren't at that time able to make money off of it, which is kind of BS. That's why their names weren't in it. It was like QB number 16, wide receiver number 1. But, everyone knew that was Blake Corum. Everyone knew that, whoever it was. Now that's what they're trying to figure out. Like Jared said, they're trying to figure out how much to pay these guys. Are we just going to give everyone a flat $500? Well, no, that doesn't make sense. For JJ McCarthy should make more than the quarterback for Missouri
EMU that can throw a pass.
Right.
Yeah, they should get their fair share for sure. Let's figure it out somehow.
Yeah. So that they're trying to figure out, like, do we go off of sales? Is there a percentage? Like certain guys will get a certain percent,
Clicks, how many times you play the guy or whatever.
Right. And someone was trying to figure out some like algorithm. How many times does a guy play with Michigan and play with JJ McCarthy, and then that decides how much money he gets, stuff like that.
Yeah,
so that honestly, that's the big hang up is how much are we going to pay these guys? So it does suck though, because I've said, I have a PS4, PS5 is, cause I don't really play games that much anymore, but when this game comes out, if it'll be PS5, this is what'll make me buy a PS5. I've told my wife already, if this game drops, I will go buy a PS5 because it is one of the coolest games. I don't believe it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the NCAA 14, the last one that came out, it's like, dude, that game, people were still playing it on the PS3, Xbox 360, for like 3 or 4 years after that, until finally the new, PS4 came around. Then you couldn't do it anymore. It's like that game had such a long shelf life because it's such a great game. Like, what are we doing? Figure this stuff out with NIL. It's like, dude, if you got to have a few guys sit out because they're not willing to play, so what? It is what it is. We just give us a game. Or just shut up about
it. Yeah, right.
Well, do we want anything else we need to wrap on the national championship, fellas?
Still, I wonder when it's going to truly hit home. I mean, it has, but it's just what a season, man! What a season!
Incredible. Well, we got another team we're following, the Detroit Lions, and their year's still going. We'll talk about that right after this. All right, guys, let's get into the Detroit Lions. I mean, 12-5, their win last week. Couple injuries were a little scary, but the big storyline, Matt Stafford comes back to Detroit.
What a story, huh? We mentioned, as amazing as the national championship was, great drama in the college football playoff, everything with that. The NFL is still king. I mean, you look at these matchups in the first round of the NFL, you got Cowboys, Packers, obviously for us, Matthew Stafford, not just playing the Lions, coming back to Ford Field and playing a playoff game at Ford Field. It is just a magical story. And it's one of those things, you guys know my love for Stafford, and he is still one of my favorite Lions ever. He's definitely, he'll never surpass Barry Sanders, Megatron. He's one of my favorite Lions ever. But no, like I see some Lions fans even saying, like, after Rams win, I'd be okay with it. No, he got his Super Bowl. Cool. Tip the cap. I want them to get that Matthew Stafford 3 interceptions because they're pressuring him. This is the Lions. Lions need to win this. It's an awesome story. There will probably be some cool features and interviews with him about his time in Detroit. But no, this is the Lions' time. It's Jared Goff's time. Am I nervous about the game? Yeah, because we've seen also Matthew Stafford light it up at Ford Field, and the Rams are playing really well right now. So, and the Lions secondary is not. So I think there's a very good chance that we see a shootout on Sunday with the Rams. But I think the Lions offense is built for it. It's too bad. You mentioned the injuries. It's too bad that Laporta got hurt. Sounds like there's a small chance he could play Sunday. I'd kind of be surprised, but that's a big loss because he's one of Jared Goff's like go-to guys. But they'll figure it out. The run game is humming. St. Brown and even Donovan Peoples-Jones is starting to get involved a little bit. So the receivers are playing well. So yeah, the Laporta loss would be big, but to me, it's all about can the defense hold up against Stafford and the Rams?
Real quick, just on that Laporta thing. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be impossible to, like, he's a 1,000-yard receiver. I mean, he's been outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's been like their number one offensive weapon, really.
No.
Did you guys have any problem playing everybody last week. I didn't, but it kind of seems to be the hot button issue all week, especially when a guy like Laporta goes down. Did you guys have any issue with that?
I did really. I mean, there was a chance, a slight chance, they still could move up to that number 2 spot.
Right.
That's what it's all about. If they were locked in at number 3 and there was absolutely no way to move up, then I would have had a problem with it. But no, I don't really. It's the NFL.
Yeah, no, and I mean, because you're right, you could get hurt at practice. You could get hurt anytime. Obviously, it's always the hindsight thing. My one criticism, I guess, would have been playing the starters for so long. I would have and the game wasn't a blowout. I would have liked to see maybe third quarter, some of the starters go out. Gibbs and Montgomery was still getting carries in the fourth quarter. It's kind of like, all right, man, let's start to get some of these starters out of there. But no, I mean, and they wanted to probably get the bad taste of the Cowboys game, out of their mouth. Right. They wanted to get some good momentum going into the playoffs. Let's get some good plays going on tape and all that. So no, I wasn't mad about it.
Yeah, it's like I agree with what you're saying. It's like, I wish they could have got them out. But this defense, man, I mean, it's the opposite of Jesse Minter and the Michigan Wolverines. They can't stop anybody. Nick Mullins, man, he's looked like freaking Matt Stafford or Aaron Rodgers. Even like last 2 times we played him, these wide receiver ones, Cooper Kupp's going to have 150 yards. Puka Nacua probably going to have 100 yards. Like, I don't know. I'm worried about this game. But to be honest, after last night's Michigan victory, it's kind of like everything's just like icing on top. It really is. Like, I got my championship. State fans who we are also fellow Lions fans with. Sorry, man. We already got ours. This is just icing on top.
Yep.
So it's just going to be an awesome matchup. As the playoff scenario, I was on Playoff Simulator all Sunday. I wanted the Rams. People are like terrified of the Rams, and for good reason. I mean, my God, it's not a good matchup for the Lions. But it's just going to be like Sunday night. NFL first playoff game, tickets are going for $600, twice as much as the next highest. Like, just get ready for it. And if the Lions lose this game, then they weren't that team anyway. It's like, just enjoy the storylines, enjoy the fact that if you do lose, it's going to be an awesome kind of full circle Matthew Stafford moment. So just appreciate the game, get the popcorn out, and enjoy it. I'm sure I won't be saying that come third quarter of that game when it's a nail biter, but I just can't wait for it, man. It's like, this is a true get the popcorn out, Randy Moss, and just sit and enjoy this game.
Yeah, luckily the Rams defense isn't what they were when they won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, or even when they went to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff as their quarterback. The Rams defense, is still fine. They have guys like Aaron Donald and stuff, but the 49ers ran all over them last week with backups in, basically. So if the Lions, I think if the Lions can control the line, the line of scrimmage, a lot of games, that's what it comes down to. And the Lions offensive line is one of the best in the league. And if they can run the ball, which then opens the play action pass up for your guys' quarterback, Jared Goff, that'll be a good sign.
Real quick, what would you do if, let's say, like, this is a dream scenario? What if Jared Goff lights it up and Stafford kind of plays like shit? What does that change your opinion at all of who he is?
Slightly.
He has 3 TDs, 250 yards, leads a game-winning drive, outplays Stafford.
If he leads this team to the NFC Championship, obviously a Super Bowl, if he wins a playoff game or 2, that's when I will say, give him the money. I'm almost there just because of what he's done, but to me, it all comes down to the dollar amount. He's a fine quarterback. He's he is who he is. He's good. It's the money that he might ask for. But if he wins a couple playoff games, especially makes the NFC Championship or the Super Bowl, then he deserves it. Yeah. But if he goes in there and throws 2 interceptions and Stafford throws 4 touchdowns and we lose by 28, then I'm going to be like, this is why we can't pay this guy. This is why we can't pay this guy. But
Goff is going to be playing inspired, man. If he lays a dud, it is kind of like, what the F, man.
Yeah.
You have so much motivation going into this. Like, it's almost like a legendary. If you just outplay Stafford and win this game, it's almost like, you win the first playoff game in my lifetime for Lions. Like, dude, you're in legend status.
Yep.
Just get it done. It's going to be a real fun one to watch. I think the key player, and we've said it all year, he shows up in the biggest, brightest lights. It's Aiden Hutchinson. He's going to have a game like he had versus the Cowboys. This defense sucks, but maybe one man can be a one-man wrecking crew, and he can have a couple sacks that end a couple drives. Other than that, this defense, it's going to be a long day, I think, for the defense. But we need him to play like a all-pro is what we need from him.
You really think the defense, you flat out say they suck? Because I think they're pretty decent at times. Their secondary is weak, but I think their defensive line plays well. Their linebackers are okay. I mean, I wouldn't say they suck. I haven't looked at any statistics,
I
but
don't know, man. We'll see come playoff
Aaron
time.
Glenn still
I do
gets a
think
lot
Aaron
of
Glenn's a
looks.
great coordinator. I saw he was voted like the best defensive coordinator
Yeah,
by the players. I think he's squeezing a lot out of what this team is, man.
maybe.
I don't know. I mean, what it makes you say? I mean, you just watched Nick Mullins. I mean, dude, what did he put up on
Well,
New Year's?
here's the way I look at it.
Eve?
Yeah,
30
they're
points?
definitely allowing too many passing yards, especially to a guy like Nick Mullins. But they come up with a big play here and there when they need to. Hutchinson's come up big, like you said. I mean, they'll come away with an interception. I don't know. They're not great. Believe me, I'm not saying they're great, but I think they're good enough right now. They just, ever since they started mixing it up and started blitzing more, from different areas, you got to do that. And that allows sometimes some big pass plays, but overall, I'm hoping they have a better game. It could be scary. It could be.
It's great. It's crazy too. They do like generate some turnovers too. Like,
Right.
Mullins. I mean, it is Nick Mullins.
Right.
Mullins is not Matthew Stafford, but they force turnovers, so they do a good job at that. I quick looked. They're basically middle of the pack in all the defensive statistics: total yards, pass yards, points. The one that they're at the top, they're number 2 in rush yards. So, now like after seeing that, you think about it, they are a pretty good rush defense.
Yeah.
Because of that D line and the linebackers, are pretty good. So, which doesn't necessarily help against the Rams because Matthew Stafford's going to throw the ball 48 times probably. But
we've seen it, man.
You got to hope
you got to
hope for Hutchinson, like you said, Jared, pressure Stafford, kind of what Michigan did to Penix. Pressure him, and we watched enough Stafford games to know.
Oh yeah.
One of those wild interceptions or two are probably going to happen. You got to hope for that, and hope Jared Goff plays lights out.
Yep,
it's going to be awesome having us here. Was there, Ted? Did you ever have any thought on going to the game?
It crossed my mind, but with this sickness, it crossed it right out. I'll be sitting home Sunday night, prime time. It's going to be awesome. I think they got the good matchup and they went the right way going Sunday night.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been reading things about people getting all upset about the one game they've got on Prime.
Oh,
Peacock. Peacock.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Michigan had a football game on Peacock this year. The college basketball, there's a ton of games on Peacock. It's just kind of where it's going. Yep. I got to be honest. I mean, I canceled my Peacock app or subscription, and I think actually I'm going to be at work during that game, so I'm not going to reopen it to watch because I'll be at work, so I'll be able to watch there. But it's just the way of the world, I guess. People are going to complain. It does kind of suck if that's your team. And you have to open up a Peacock subscription just to watch your team.
I know that's kind of rough.
But it's Chiefs versus Dolphins, right? I think is the Peacock game. If that is a great matchup. I mean, the Dolphins are spiraling right now, but if that's a close game, I might do the $5. I might buy it. But if it's 27-10 and it's not close, and I'm just kind of keeping watch on the score, I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah, fortunately, I have Peacock. That was one of the free deals I got with my cable resubscription, so I'm happy. I won't complain. Hey, back one final comment on, we like the fact that the Lions are starting out the playoffs against the Rams. Great matchup, and for the excitement level and all that, I like it. But for them to make a run to the Super Bowl, I hate to go back to that Cowboys game and that call. Look what it did. They would have the Packers. They'd have 2 home playoff games. They'd have a legitimate shot to get to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they don't right now, but it's a lot tougher with only one home.
I don't know. I didn't want to see the Packers, not because I think the Rams are a better team than the Packers, but that was like almost like a lose-lose playoff game. Like you're playing the Packers, you're definitely the favorite. Like they have this underdog mentality. They spanked us. You saw it firsthand. On Thanksgiving. I wasn't a lot of people were up in arms about playing the Rams. I don't know. It's like, I like the fact that it's like, it feels like it's an even game and the Lions can just play carefree. When they're at their best, it's when they're not worried about, when they're just playing with their, hair on fire. And I think that's what we're going to see on Sunday night.
I get that, but that home field advantage, it's a big thing in the playoffs.
Especially for the Lions. I mean, they played well at Dallas, a couple weeks ago, but it would have been huge. Obviously, if that if that whole controversy doesn't happen with the Cowboys, you don't know how things are going to play out. Maybe the Lions go in and lose to the Vikings because you can't predict what's going to happen if things, the whole butterfly effect type of thing. But yes, if you just look at it on the surface, if the Lions had won that, the playoff scenarios would have been different. But is what it is at this point. Lions, year 3 of Dan Campbell. We don't have to rehash the receipts. I think at one point we were all kind of out on Dan Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
Year 3 of Dan Campbell, given where the Lions were when he came in and that first season, this is the rebuild that every NFL team hopes for when they hire a coach. Unless they're coming in and it's kind of like a win now situation. Year 1 might be rough. Improvement in year 2, playoffs in year 3.
Perfect.
Won the division and they're hosting a playoff game. I mean, this is what an NFL team says with a rebuild. And you have to he's up for coach of the year. I'll be curious who wins coach of the year. I think Dan Campbell could, but you have to give him all the credit. He's not a perfect coach by any means. And, we know the faults, I guess, sometimes that he has, but no coach is perfect. Even Bill Belichick right now is losing games. Andy Reid, the Chiefs are struggling, so it happens. But what Dan Campbell has done in Detroit, rebuilding that culture, winning the division, hosting a playoff game for the first time in 30 years. He's getting guys to want to play for the Lions. I mean, you can't say anything else.
Yeah, I agree. Well, go Lions. That'll be on Sunday night, prime time, NBC. Let's take another short break, fellas, and take a look at the Prep Spotlight presented by Jacobs Insurance Agency.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcasts, we've had 3 generations, Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community, with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.
All right, fellas, time for the Prep Spotlight presented by Jacobs Insurance Agency. And, we'll jump right into boys basketball. Chesapeake improved to 9-0. They had 28 steals in their 67-35 win over Byron. Think about
28
that. 28
steals?
Picking a few pockets there. Langsburg also down Plymouth Christian 91-74. Xander Woodruff keeps it rolling 38 with 5 triples. In girls basketball, Owasso down Durand 49-36. Scotty Ball Dooley had 19. Over at Elsie, the Lady Marauders stayed perfect. They pounded Durand 57-19. And man, you can sure tell I am stuffed up. Let's go to wrestling. Durand had 3 champions at the Railroader Invitational. Cam Backus, Andrew Kesson, and Drew Allward each won their weight classes. Coretta's Jaden Eddington, who got an offer from Ferris State for football, took first in the 215-pound weight class at the New Lothrop Hall of Fame tournament. And he's a stud. Nice. He is having a nice year here, isn't he?
I mean, man, when you just translate right from the football field and he's winning tournaments on the wrestling mats, I mean, it's impressive.
Pretty amazing. Speaking of wrestling, Chesapeake's Quentin Everett won the 126-pound bracket at the Saginaw County tournament. And in swimming, Corunna boys stayed unbeaten down in Kersley Lake Fenton 107-57 at the Olmsted Pool. Nolan Carr led the way with a pair of wins. Owasso also stayed perfect with a 184 win over Brandon Goodrich. Blake Bigger had 2 wins in that one. The Castle Game of the Week coming up this Friday in basketball, boys basketball, Friday, January 12th, 7 o'clock at the Red Wing Gym. St. John's taking on the Hazlitt Vikings. That's the Prep Spotlight presented by Jacobs Insurance. Definitely for all your insurance needs, check out the guys at Jacobs for sure. All right, fellas, let's wrap up this podcast. Been a fun one. I wish I was 100%, though. Don't have my game face on today. But that's
you're battling, man. This is a Jordan flu game.
Yeah, it just sucks because Michigan just won a national championship. I couldn't really let it all out, man. Yep. I guess it's better for our listeners to listen to more of you guys. Let's take a look at Tedertainment Tonight. What do you guys got?
I got one real quick. This is a big movie I've been waiting for, man, for like a year to see. Have either of you guys seen it? Killers of the Flower Moon, Leonardo DiCaprio,
I've been
Martin
wanting
Scorsese.
to. No, I haven't seen it yet.
So that was a big purchase. Like, we rented it. What Matt did with Barbie movie, $20 rental on Christmas Day. We watched it. It kind of reminded me of The Irishman, which I believe is also a Scorsese movie.
It is.
Where it was good, but my God, it's long. It felt like it was like the movie felt like it was like 3.5 hours. Like it felt like a marathon to get through it. There's a lot of good scenes. Like the premise of it is awesome. How they ended it with this little like live interpretation of the story was kind of a fun little ending. I just thought it was like it left a little bit to be desired. It felt like the premise, Scorsese, DiCaprio, De Niro. I'll say he was probably the best actor in that film. He was great. I loved him in that movie. The whole premise of Native Americans striking oil and basically Leonardo DiCaprio, De Niro trying to basically take it from him. Like it felt like it was a home run, like A+, going to be an awesome movie, and it still was a good movie, but I felt like it just left a little bit to be desired. Like. It was like almost like and this is a big Scorsese thing, I feel like, where it's like every character is like some famous actor. Like at one point they have like Brendan Fraser pop up, and it's just like it's like almost felt like it was like a comedy sketch, like all these new there's that guy, and it like takes you out of the movie,
right?
And it's like for like 2 hours we're kind of plotting this story, going over like 15 different individual moments where it's like I think we got the premise after about 5 of those moments. Right. So, like, I don't think we needed 3.5 hours to tell this story, or at least to tell it how they told it. I don't know. I'll be curious. Like, I saw the ratings on like Rotten Tomatoes, like a 95%. Like I said, I would give it a thumb up, but like I was expecting to be blown away, and it still was awesome. Like the visuals, it still was awesome, but it just left a little bit to be desired. So I was a little bit depressed after I watched that one. I mean, it's never good when it's like you're like basically slapping yourself awake to like finish the movie. Like you should be like hanging on your every last word, like if a movie is really, really good. So it didn't reach my expectations, but maybe my expectations were just too high.
Yeah, when you see the director and all the actors in it, you expect to just be absolutely blown away, which, I've seen people with similar reviews. Very good, of course, probably going to win a bunch of awards, great movie, but almost like, why did it have to be so long? It's almost like you're treating the viewers almost in a sense like they're stupid. Like you almost are like, we have to explain everything to them. And like you said, almost like over too much, like to an extent, like we get it. You know what I mean? Like just, hit the plot points, move on. And in 2.5 hours, wrap it up. And, we'll enjoy it. When you start going too long, then it is like you start getting lost in the movie.
Well, so, you guys are both in the business of editing. And you got to edit something like that, right?
That's your best quote. You always say that about one of my uncle makes like family home videos. He has no edit button. Scorsese is the definition of has no edit button. Like, Ted, there's no way you get through it in one sitting unless you start at like 8 a.m. with a cup of coffee in your hand. I think you got a mid movie nap whenever you do watch it.
Should have an intermission like some of those old movies used to have.
Right. Yeah. So you're saying that the director's cut of that movie is like 4.5 hours long, probably?
That's probably.
Seriously, it felt just like The Irishman. Like, I mean, like we're like, it's a good movie. Like, there's good parts, but why is it so goddamn long?
Right.
Like, you just
I saw some people say like movies like Lord of the Rings that are like 3.5 hours long, different because there's battle scenes. There's a ton of action that keep you like going. When it's one of these kind of like epic movies, it's just very deep and, thought provoking. It is almost like exhausting watching. I do still want to watch it, but again,
it's worth watch.
3.5 hours long or whatever. It is like, man, when am I going to carve out 3.5 hours to watch this thing?
And it's like, I don't know. Like I'm making fun of Scorsese here. Obviously I'm no filmmaker. Like I hated how it was done. Where it felt like it was so like choppy. Like it felt like all the scenes were like really short. And like not much substance. Like we're just jumping. Whereas like you got like Jesse Plemons, famously for Friday Night Lights. He's like kind of the detective in this movie. It's like there's a great like interrogation scene with him and DiCaprio, and it's like let's just let this breathe. Like if you're gonna make a long movie, like let's just have this interrogation for like 10 minutes. Like 2 minutes, we're on to the next thing. It's like I don't know. You have these great actors, DiCaprio, good performance, De Niro, good performance. Like just let it like breathe a little bit. It just was like we were cramming in too many stupid things that didn't really matter. Like once we see it a few times, like we get what's happening here. So
How
I just
about
wish it would've been fleshed
how
out
about
more,
DiCaprio's how about DiCaprio's wife in the movie, Jared? I just saw she won a Golden Globe for her role. How was she?
Yeah, I mean, good. I wouldn't say I was necessarily blown away, but she was good.
Okay.
Her character kind of confused me. I don't know. Like you guys will see. I don't want to spoil it. It's not even out on DVD yet. But how her character was written, it was like I don't know. She was like just like not like they made her like, but probably on purpose. Like she was not the brightest.
Right.
And you're just like, what the heck? Like, how are you not catching on to this? Like, so we'll see.
Okay.
She was good. I wasn't like, no, she was horrible. She like I felt like that was a deserving award. Like I thought she did a good job. All the acting was great, other than Brendan Fraser. Like you'll see when Brendan Fraser comes to the movie, like what the f is this guy doing in this movie? I like him, but like, what are we doing? So all the acting was good.
Yeah. I mean, with that lineup, it's hard to think the acting's not going to be good.
Right.
I knocked out a couple things. I know, Ted, maybe you can finish up with yours. Okay. So I did finally get to Bye Bye Barry. This is a couple weeks ago. We haven't done Tedertainment in a couple weeks, but I mean, everything you expect it to be as a Lions fan, especially me, Barry Sanders being my favorite player ever. It just reliving those moments, seeing the highlights, seeing the behind the scenes stuff a little bit, what the franchise was going to, because obviously I was younger then, and Twitter wasn't around, all the news, YouTube and all that wasn't around when he was playing. So you didn't necessarily see, I wasn't reading the newspaper all the time. So you didn't see all the behind the scenes franchise stuff. So it was kind of cool to, see all that, get some of the business of his career. And then I think Jared or one of you guys mentioned it at the cool spin too, was him getting like basically interviewed by his sons. That was a pretty cool spin too. But Barry, even with the interview, he's pretty like, he doesn't open up a ton.
He's boring, man.
You know what I mean? Like his interviews, he's obviously a very professional, nice guy, great person, all that. But it's not like he really totally poured out his feelings on the Lions or, whatever. Maybe he doesn't want to. But just overall, for a football fan, for especially a Lions fan, it's an easy hour and a half watch. You'll love it. I mean, and you'll walk away being like, man, this dude, he's the greatest running back ever. He is the greatest running back ever. I mean, I don't really remember. Ted, you definitely do because you were older during his run. I remember hearing about his dad, but I didn't realize his dad was like that much in the spotlight. So that was a new thing for me, knowing his dad was that much in the spotlight.
He pretty much did all his talking for him.
Right.
What do you guys think of, like, here's the thing, like every time we watch a Detroit thing, it's like they interview the same like Detroit celebrities.
Yeah.
Eminem, Jamel Hill, Jeff Daniels. Like, I mean, I don't even think Eminem knows, like Eminem, like he has one comment where it's like, I think they're doing like this Emmitt Smith or Barry Sanders, like,
right.
And it's like, I think the Cowboys, you guys would remember better than I would. Like, didn't they win like, 2 or 3 Super Bowls, like basically right in a row? And he has some comment where he's like, man, imagine if that Cowboys team had like Barry Sanders instead of Emmitt Smith. It's like it's the same exact squad. So
it's cool. Like, it's almost like the Eminem is almost like the shock value, because while I was excited, I didn't know he was in it. His music was really cool.
Yeah.
But it was almost like, I don't necessarily need to hear Eminem's analysis of Barry Sanders. It was cool.
No,
right. Tim Allen popped up. It was like, oh,
right.
Hey, there's Tim Allen. All right. But overall, I'd give it, on our 3-point podcast scale, I'd give it an easy as a Lions Barry Sanders at 2.8 at least. I'd even maybe give it a 3, as a Lions fan.
Have you guys
the
been
second
to a
thing
show?
I watched? Yeah. Go ahead, Jared.
No, one last thing. Have you guys been like when they interviewed Barry at the Fox Theater? It looks awesome. I've never been there. I walk by it every day when I work.
Oh, it is awesome.
Game.
It's awesome.
Have you guys both been to a show there? It looks incredible.
I haven't.
I saw Greta Van Fleet there.
Wow.
Nice.
It looks like one hell of a venue.
It is. It really is. It's very ornate, very old school, and not a bad seat in the house either. It's a nice place to go watch a concert or comedy show or whatever. Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm glad they've kept it up, kept it going, not let it fall apart, because it is also like historic, for downtown Detroit. Definitely one you have to check off. Trying to wrap this up so you can get out of here, Ted, get some meds. I wanted to mention, I watched Leave the World Behind, Julia Roberts' movie on Netflix.
Right.
Okay.
I'm sure you guys have seen the promo or at least seen the pictures.
Yep.
Kind of like a thriller, a psychological thriller type of movie, I guess is maybe what I would call it. But if you want to sit down for an hour and a half or so and watch a movie that's very different and like will get you thinking, and it's really crazy and weird, and like I said, kind of a thriller, a little bit of shock value and stuff, it's definitely there. And it's very weird. It's strange. It's shot very like artistically. It almost looks like an Alfred Hitchcock type of movie, the way it's shot. The camera moves and the angles and everything is really interesting. Julia Roberts obviously is good. But the story, the plot, and the story is really interesting. And I don't want to say too much in case you guys want to watch it, but it's one of those that like there's twists, there's turns. You have to stick into it because you don't know how it's going to play out. Just a really, it's not anything that's going to blow you away. You're not going to say it's a 3.3 on the 3-point podcast scale. But you know, it's one of those hour and a half. You don't have anything to watch, pop it on. It'll keep you engaged. Unlike maybe the 3.5 hour epic that Jared watched that you fall asleep in the middle. This will keep you into it for an hour and a half. And in the end, it'll make you kind of think like, it's one of those that like, what would I do if I was in that situation? Like, it's one of those that makes you think like, it's like an apocalypse type of movie, you know, like if I was put in this scenario, how would we handle it? So
what, without spoiling it, what exactly is the scenario, or is that a spoiler? If it's a spoiler, I guess you don't got to say it, but
no, because if you looked at the synopsis, it would tell you it's like, what's the word? A cyber attack. There's like a cyber attack on the world. They don't know it at first, but then they kind of figure out that it's a cyber attack. You know, all technology goes down,
And
internet goes down, TV goes down. Right. So that's what I mean. It starts to make you think like, geez, what if this did happen?
Right.
And there's no phones, there's no internet, there's no TV. What would we do? You know, Ethan Hawke is in it, and I've always thought he's kind of a cool actor. Good. So yeah, it's like I said, interesting story, some cool like moments. And again, makes you think like, geez, this actually really could happen. What would we do? So
that actually sounds like one we'll check out. I mean, it's Netflix. It sounds like it's a perfect thing you're looking for on Netflix, right?
Yeah, fun watch. A couple good actors. So yeah, I'd recommend it.
I've got a few things here, but I'm not going to get to them. I'm just gonna do one, and it's Hard Knocks in season with the Miami Dolphins. I being sick, I've been laying around, so I binge watched that whole thing up to date. It's awesome. It's really good. Mike McDaniel. I knew he was a little different odd duck, but he's definitely an interesting character all the way around, the head coach of the Dolphins. I know you saw it, Jared. I don't know, Matt, have you had a chance to catch any of it?
I've seen a ton of clips, but no, I haven't watched it all.
Yeah, and it's what sucks, man, is you get attached to like this Dolphins team, and I talked about it a couple weeks ago. It's been like my favorite season, maybe even better than the Lions. I mean, when it's actually in season, I mean, it's like how does it compare to the preseason? You know, whether this guy's going to make the team or get cut, like we normally see before the year. And what sucks is you get attached to this Dolphins team as soon as you get attached, like they're on like the biggest slide of all time. Like they're probably going to get outed against the Chiefs in round 1. But McDaniel, it just shows you, man, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. I mean, Dan Campbell and him probably polar opposites, and both are damn good at their job. He's an interesting guy, man, and I love watching him. He's entertaining.
He has an interesting way of thinking, and his whole vocabulary. I mean, it's hard to explain. And the in-season program, this is the first one I've watched in season. It's different, but I like it. You know, it makes me want to watch the Miami Dolphins every week. You know all the characters, and they've been decimated by injuries. That's what's killed them.
Exactly. And I mean, Zach Steeler, Ferris State Bulldog. I know you love that little segment on there. Lived in
he's a stud
in RB for a couple years, like first couple years in the league. I mean, was a walk on at Ferris State. Just a really good season, man, all around.
It is,
and you can never go wrong with HBO and Hard Knocks either.
No, not at all.
The editing is, my God, it's like the little intro. I'm like, wow, this is like the coolest thing. Every time I watch it, I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've ever watched.
Yeah.
With they like flash photos and like blur out it's awesome.
It's so good. All right, guys, that's all I got. I got to get out of here. I got to get a nap in.
Nap time
for sure. I want to thank all our partners, including Memorial Healthcare's Wellness Center. Sign up for a 2024 membership, up to 15% off. Get healthy. Go see Jared today. He'll be there working out, right? Also want to thank our other partners, AZee Branding Solutions, Jacobs Insurance Agency, Kori Shook and Associates Real Estate Services, Nelson House Funeral Homes, Rivals Taphouse and Grille, and Success Group Mortgage and Servicing. Peace and love, everybody. Be kind. Thanks for listening.